right now to Battleground Canada. Now, as we've been telling you in the run-up to the 2015 general election, just about every party is going to have wide open nomination races for what will be, in most parts of the country, a radically redrawn electoral map, all those new seats. Those nomination races are going to produce some interesting intramural fights, nowhere more so than in the riding now known as Calgary West, but soon to be Calgary Signal Hill. The MP there, and for the last decade, Rob Anders. Now, Anders wins easily whenever there's a general election, but 9 times he's had to fight off a nomination challenge by Calgary Conservatives who don't think Anders is their kind of conservative. Well, Anders is going to have to win one more nomination battle, and this one could be his toughest. The challenger this time, the former member of the provincial legislature for Calgary West, who also happens to be a former finance minister. His name is Ron Liepert, and he's in our Calgary studio now. And Ron, thank you for joining us. And I guess the first question is, I'm correct in assuming you're one of those Calgary Conservatives who doesn't think Anders is your kind of conservative. How come?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to put on the table that we have actually not had an open nomination in our particular riding for 10 years now. The last nomination where Rob Anders won a contested nomination was in 2004. There have been some challenges to his acclamation, but they were never successful.
There were more fights on the board of directors and things like that.
It was kind of internal politics. But
right.
as a resident of the riding, I've had no input into who my candidate should be. So it's time. It's time democracy returned. Certainly while I was a provincial elected official, I heard numerous people expressing frustrations about their MP. And I guess where it really came to a head was that in recent months there have been some attempts by the current board of Mr. Anders to try and slide things through for the founding meeting, and we expect maybe for the nomination. And so some of us have gotten together and said enough's enough. And we launched a campaign last week called Time to Do Better on a website and some road signs. And within a week, we had 3,000 people visit the website and over 500 sign up to support. So in that time, I also had lots of encouragement to run and made the decision to run today.
Can you give us a little more sense then? You said, and again, I want to really underline this fact for our viewers, there you were from 2004 to 2012 as the MLA for the very same riding where the MP was Rob Anders. So these constituents, you know them very well. And you were saying they'd complain about Anders from time to time. And can you give us a sense of what the complaints were? Was it a visa issue, or was it more like some of his famous things, voting against Nelson Mandela being named a Canadian citizen, things like that?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. And just to be clear, unlike Ontario, my provincial constituency was about 1/3 of what the federal riding will be. We have more constituencies in Alberta. Nevertheless, you know, it's a host of things. I think one of the things that the current member has some strong opinions about things, and he is not afraid to express them. Those opinions and those views may not necessarily reflect the majority of the constituency, but they're expressed in any event on behalf of the constituency. And so that's one thing. I think the series of embarrassments doesn't help. But generally, I think there's a dissatisfaction that maybe 17 years as an MP, and it's 17, not 12. 17 years is probably long enough.
There might be some, and again, I'm asking this as an Ontarian. I'm always a little puzzled why the big race in Alberta is always the nomination race. I mean, in virtually every riding, you win the nomination as a Conservative, you're off to be an MP. Why not just have somebody run as a progressive Conservative or an independent Conservative or something else? In other words, challenge Anders at the ballot box on E-Day. Is that at all possible?
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm as much a conservative as Rob Anders is, and so there's no reason why I shouldn't and others shouldn't have the opportunity to contest him in a nomination. You have to remember, Stephen Harper started his political career in Calgary West. There's a real feeling that Stephen Harper's one of our own. Mm-hmm. And people in the general election, they want to vote for Stephen Harper, and he's the Conservative leader, and they tend to vote for the Conservative candidate.
Let me ask you this sort of last one then, Ron. Your riding's going to be a little different, Calgary Signal Hill than Calgary West. You're losing that chunk above the Bow River. You're getting a little bit, I think, of what is Calgary Centre now, coming into Calgary Signal Hill. Do those changes work in your favor, Rob's favor, any sense?
Well, I think that they could work in our favor or other candidates' favors. I know that back in 2004 when there was a nomination and I was involved. A lot of the support that the incumbent got seemed to come from those communities that are no longer in the riding. And so we think it is a different situation. In addition to that, the area that I represented provincially really didn't even exist 20 years ago. So there's a lot of new Albertans, many who are not Albertans by, you know, they've moved here for the opportunities, and I think they deserve an opportunity to have some input into who their Conservative candidate should be.
Ron Liepert, good luck. You know it's going to be a tough fight, and I wish you all the best to it.
Thank you.